Before we begin, find a comfortable position. Gently close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Inhale and exhale. Let the thoughts of the day fade away. This is your time to find rest in God's presence, in His Word, and in the quiet assurance of His love. Tonight, we turn to one of the most beautiful and faithful stories in the Bible, the story of Ruth. A tale not only of loss and redemption, but of loyalty, kindness, and quiet strength. A story where God's providence unfolds in the ordinary. Let your mind settle as we begin. Chapter 1. A journey begins. Long ago, during the days of the judges, a famine swept through the land. A man from Bethlehem, along with his wife and 2 sons, journeyed to the country of Moab in search of food. In that foreign land, sorrow struck. The husband died, and soon after, both sons also passed away. The woman Naomi was left with only her memories and her 2 daughters-in-law. With the famine eased in Bethlehem, Naomi prepared to return to her homeland. She encouraged her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab, to begin anew. One departed with a tearful goodbye, but the other, Ruth, walked beside Naomi in silent devotion, her presence a quiet pledge of love and faithfulness. The 2 women journeyed together across hills and valleys, stepping over stones and dried earth, guided only by the promise of home and a flicker of hope. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the people were stirred by their return. Naomi, burdened by grief, felt as though her name no longer fit. Yet beside her walked Ruth, a faithful companion carrying unseen threads of redemption. As the days passed, Ruth began to learn the rhythms of a new life. Each morning she rose early, her heart still steady in love and trust. Her hands became calloused, her steps careful, and her spirit quiet. Though the language and customs were different, Ruth pressed on, full of grace. And Naomi, slowly, began to open again. The walls of grief softened, laughter occasionally returned to her lips. In the gentle gestures of Ruth's service, she saw glimpses of God's enduring faithfulness. Chapter 2. The Field of Grace. In the gentle light of the harvest season, Ruth ventured into the fields to glean leftover grain. The stalks rustled in the breeze as she worked, step by step, hands brushing golden stems, gathering what remained. Guided by unseen grace, she entered the field of a kind and honorable man named Boaz. Boaz noticed her presence among the workers. Word had reached him of her loyalty and compassion. Quietly, he ensured her protection and allowed her to gather freely. Throughout the day, she gleaned tirelessly, the sun casting shadows that lengthened as evening approached. When Ruth returned to Naomi with an abundance of barley, the older woman recognized the name of the landowner. He was a close relative, one who could restore what had been lost. In that moment, Naomi glimpsed the hand of providence. Days passed, and Ruth continued her humble work in the fields. Boaz, observing her grace and diligence, showed continued kindness. The barley fields became a place of quiet provision, where past sorrows began to yield future blessings. As Ruth labored, her thoughts drifted to her homeland, to memories of childhood, and to the God she had come to trust. Each handful of grain gathered was a testimony of grace. Each breath she took in the open fields was filled with promise. In the evenings, she would return to Naomi, and together they would prepare food, speak softly about the day, and offer thanks. Their small home, though modest, glowed with a peace that only the Lord can give. Chapter 3. A Humble Proposal. As the harvest drew to a close, the air turned cooler and the nights longer. Naomi spoke words of guidance to Ruth, offering a plan grounded in wisdom and hope. That night, beneath a blanket of stars, Ruth walked to the threshing floor, her steps measured and calm. She waited in stillness until the moment was right. When Boaz rested, she lay gently at his feet, a gesture of humility and trust. The early morning hours held a quiet conversation, words of honor, promise, and care exchanged in hushed tones. Boaz, a man of integrity, rose with resolve. Before the dawn's light spilled across the fields, he provided for Ruth and sent her back to Naomi. In the silence of those hours, hope stirred once more. The sun rose slowly over Bethlehem. Ruth, with arms full of grain, walked the familiar path home. Naomi waited at the door. In Ruth's expression, Naomi saw joy and peace. They embraced without words, and the silence between them spoke of trust and new beginnings. Chapter 4. Redemption and Rest. Standing Odor. With purpose, Boaz met with the elders at the town gate. He acted in righteousness, securing the right to redeem the family's land and legacy. Before the witnesses of the city, he claimed Ruth as his wife. Joy and restoration followed. In time, Ruth bore a son, a child cradled in Naomi's arms, a symbol of healing, a gift of renewal. The women of the town offered praises, for they saw God's hand in it all. This child, Obed, would grow and become the grandfather of King David. Through simple faith and steadfast love, God wove together the threads of the story that would shape generations. So, the story of Ruth concludes not with grand miracles, but with gentle obedience, kindness, and divine orchestration. The lessons are still that love and loyalty shine brightest at quiet places, that redemption often begins with small steps, and that God's presence is constant even when unseen. As you rest now, remember Ruth's journey. From loss to hope, from a foreign land to a family redeemed. Her faith did not need a platform. Her strength was in her stillness. Her devotion was not loud, but lasting. So often we think God only works in the grand, the visible. But Ruth's story reminds us He is working in the ordinary, in your quiet prayers, in your unseen kindness, in your silent perseverance. Tonight, breathe in the truth that you are part of God's story. His grace meets you here, in your weariness, in your need, in your rest. Let each breath draw you deeper into His peace. Let your heart settle in the rhythm of His promises. Let the presence of the Lord be your covering. You are loved, you are held, you are safe. May sleep wrap you in its warmth. May dreams carry you gently. And may the story of Ruth echo in your soul. God redeems, God restores, God remains. Good night, beloved child of God. Sleep in peace.